Alright, fantastic. It's been a long weekend, but we are back. We are back with the Richard O'Reilly Show. I am Richard O'Reilly. Today is Monday, the 12th of June, 2017, and it has been very, very hot lately. It's been very hot all weekend. It's been very hot. It's very hot right now. It's ridiculously hot right now. For anyone who lives anywhere south of Canada, it's probably very, very hot right now. It's an absolute disaster. But more important than that is that we have a whole lot of news going on. News, very great news going on, and as well as some bad news. You know, there's always a bit of a mix. It's always a bit of a mixed bag. You know what I mean? But what I want to start with is that we have a story coming out of Fox News talking about Mueller with the whole Russia thing. Rob Mueller, the special counsel on the whole Russia thing. He's been building up a team of lawyers, and Newt Gingrich had a lot to say about that, and I have a lot to say about that as well. So let's go ahead and start off. So Fox is reporting that Mueller's lawyer buildup has raised flags for Trump allies. The article says Special Counsel Robert Mueller is said to be building out his investigative team with some of the country's best legal minds, in a development that speaks to the seriousness of the Russia probe, but is also raising red flags on the pro-Trump side. First of all, it's absolutely hilarious how they say the seriousness of the Russia probe. It's only serious in the eyes of Democrats and the media and just the establishment in general. It's only serious in their eyes. And of course, there are about like half of Democrats that drank the Kool-Aid and they actually believe the whole Russia thing. About half of them. But this whole idea that it's a serious thing, it's a serious thing to you guys. It's not serious to anybody else. Nobody else buys it. Nobody else buys this whole Russia thing, by the way. I mean, it's only senators and congress people and the media people and all of the establishment people. They're all fully into this Russia thing, but nobody else is. Nobody else is sitting at home right now. They like to think that this is like Watergate 2.0, that this is what's gonna bring up their credibility again. The media, they think this is gonna bring up their credibility again, so they report on it and they try and make it seem like, oh, it's a Watergate 2.0, because they look back at those days. They say, oh man, Watergate. That was back when we had the most faith in media, was when Watergate was going on. And everyone was saying, oh man, the media is so great. Watchdog on Nixon and all of the, corrupt politicians. They were all getting so much praise. And now, nobody trusts them anymore. Nobody trusts anybody in the media anymore. Nobody has any faith in cable news, even a lot of internet news. Nobody has any trust whatsoever in any of these people. These people they have no idea what they're doing. They get it wrong so many times on so many different issues. They get so many things wrong, and their predictions and their polls, and it's all just completely just ridiculous and fake and wrong. So they have no faith, they have no trust. Nobody trusts in the media anymore. So the media, they build up this whole Russia thing and they say, oh yeah, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's Watergate 2.0. They try and build it up like that, because they think that people will see that and they'll say, oh, the media, bravo to the media. They're keeping the people in check. They're keeping politicians in check. They're going to look out for guys like me. They're going to look out for the little guy. They're going to report on the issues that matter. But Russia isn't an issue that matters. Russia isn't a threat to democracy, okay? Russia isn't this big evil empire that's going to take the entire West down. It's not going to happen. I talk about Russia all the time because they want to be taken seriously again. They want to be considered to be like real news again. People like outlets like BuzzFeed. Since when has BuzzFeed ever been a legitimate news outlet? But for some reason, they've been accepted as one. The same people that make YouTube videos about people trying out martinis and quizzes about, oh, which celebrity are you? These are people that are now considered real news outlets. These are the people who came up with the Trump dossier a while back. That's still news now. You believe that? The whole dossier is still news now. How crazy is that? The dossier that was completely wrong. It was made by a Hillary staffer who was a former British intelligence agent. He made this dossier, it had basic spelling and grammatical errors. It had geographical errors in it. And it said that Vladimir Putin had a videotape of Donald Trump at a hotel in Russia getting peed on by prostitutes. That was his big claim. That was a Hillary campaign thing, and of course, the Hillary campaign never brought that up. You know why they didn't even? You know why they didn't bring that up? Because it was too ridiculous, even for Hillary Clinton to start to say. All the things she accused Donald Trump of doing. She said, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's a rapist. He's racist. He's this and that." All of the things that she said about him, she wouldn't say. She wouldn't bring up the dossier because it was too ridiculous, even for her. Even for her, it was too far out there. So this comes around. BuzzFeed, they pick it up. BuzzFeed reports on it and they say, "Oh, this is." They show you the dossier. And then instead of giving their opinion on it, they say, "Oh, well, this is, we're going to let the readers decide. We're going to let the readers decide what they think about it." What the hell? What is that? Since when has that ever been? Now look, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, "Oh, we're giving people the option, because we're trying to be objective. We're trying to be objective." It's not objective to publish a blatantly fake dossier to try and defame a certain person. In this case, it was Donald Trump. I mean, they do a whole load of other things to defame people. But that's not being objective. That's throwing it out there. And, if you were real news, you would say, "Oh, this is crazy. It's ridiculous." And you would point out where they were wrong and where there's no evidence or no substance. You would point that out. But instead, you just throw it out there and say, "Oh, choose for yourself. You want to believe it, maybe. You want to believe it, you want to not believe it, it's fine." That would be like turning on your TV and seeing CNN report an essay by a flat earther and say, "Oh yeah, guys, let me read this to you on air. Let me read this essay by this flat earther, and we'll let you guys decide. We'll let you guys decide if you want to believe it or not." Who does that? No one actually does that. BuzzFeed does that because they have an agenda and because they don't really want to. They want to avoid being called fake news by saying, "Oh, well, we never said it was real. We just put it out there and said, hey guys, choose for yourself. Is it real or is it not? You guys can figure that out on your own." Except you can't. As a reader, you can't figure that out on your own because you don't have the resources. The reason that we're supposed to have journalists is because they have resources to get the facts and get the information. So they're the ones that are meant to give you the information and the answers and the facts. You can't just throw things out there and say, "Oh, readers, you can figure it out on your own." Because they can't figure it out on their own because they have no resources. What are they going to do? They're going to contact the guy? They're going to contact the man who made the dossier and say, "Oh, tell me about these claims and what you said here, here, and here." They don't have the resources to do that. They can't do that. So the idea that you're putting it out there for people to read, for them to make up their own minds, is just totally. I mean, it's just a nonsense excuse, and I don't even want to hear anything about it. I don't even want to hear anything about it. Anyway, let's keep on going. So former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, citing the hires, said they're setting up to go after Trump. This is going to be a witch hunt, Gingrich said on Fox News Sunday. So he says, plainly, this is going to be a witch hunt. Newt Gingrich, I absolutely applaud you for that. Newt, I absolutely applaud you for taking such a principled stand. I mean, this is something. Why can't the whole party be saying this? Why do we have to have people like Paul Ryan? Paul Ryan, who comes out and says, Donald Trump, in his little talks with Comey, he was wrong, but he did it because he was inexperienced. What kind of defense is that, Paul Ryan? What kind of defense is that? Why can't you come out and say, no, there's no wrongdoing? Saying you hope isn't a demand. If you go to someone and say, "Oh, I hope it's colder tomorrow," are they gonna say, "Oh my God, this guy just demanded me to go and change the weather for him"? No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. Saying that you hope something isn't a demand. So there's nothing inappropriate about that. There's nothing wrong about saying, "Oh, I hope you can let this guy go," because he probably does. Because him and Flynn were at least somewhat close, because, he hired Flynn to be on the job, and he had Flynn on the campaign. So they had to have been at least somewhat close. So when you're close to somebody, it's not wrong, it's not unreasonable to say, oh, I hope you let this guy go, because it just makes sense. Like, yeah, he's your friend. You hope he's found innocent. You hope that he's found, that he didn't do anything wrong. You hope that, because he's your friend, and it makes sense. And even Comey said it wasn't a directive. It didn't seem to me like it was an obstruction of justice. He said that it felt like a directive, which makes no sense because it's not a direction, it's a hope. It's just saying, I hope. So hope isn't anything. And then Comey said, oh, it was a directive, but I didn't follow it, so But it's not a directive if you just don't follow it. If you're directed by your boss, because Donald Trump is technically your boss, if you're directed by your boss to do something, and you don't do it, well then, what happens? You end up losing your job. And Comey did lose his job, but here's the thing. Do you think that it was because of Flynn? No, it was because of the whole overarching Russia thing. It was because of the whole, he wouldn't let it go. And he refused to get the actual facts, and he refused to come out and say, look, we have no evidence. Like absolutely everybody else has. Everyone else has said, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Everyone else says that. Comey wouldn't say that. He said, oh yeah, it's guaranteed. He said at the hearing, he was like, oh yeah, there's no question that Russia tried to meddle in our election. There was no question about it. No question. No question, James Comey. If there's no question, then why can't you just prove it? If it's so obvious, if it's so obvious, then why can't you just prove it and show us what the evidence is? They've been saying it for so long. This has been going on since 2015. He said it in the hearing. He said, yeah, we've known about Russia and election meddling since 2015. Summer of 2015. It's almost been 2 years. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. And throughout the entire time, they've never come out and given us any kind of evidence. They've given us speculation and vague, broad statements like, oh yeah, Putin's a bad guy and he has technology and, and he doesn't like Hillary, so duh, right, duh. Duh, right, duh. You can use that same logic and apply it to any election ever. You can say that, Angela Merkel hacked the British election because, she probably doesn't like Theresa May that much. She probably likes Jeremy Corbyn a little bit more, and she has technology, so, put it together. Germany hacked the election pretty much. Right? Duh. Obviously they did, right? Obviously. It's the same logic. And yet, they just don't realize that. They don't realize that they don't have anything to back them. They act like they do. They act like they have all of the evidence in the world. They act like they have everything. And yet, they refuse to give us anything. They always say, oh, it's inappropriate. We'll give you the evidence later. Later. It's been later for a long time now. When's it going to come out? When is it going to come out? They always say, oh, we have information and we have evidence, but we can't show you. So if you can't show us, how do we know it's real? There's no way to know that it's real unless you show us. You can't just show up to a court case and say, oh, we had evidence that this guy's guilty, but we can't show it to you. You can't do that. No one can ever do that. That's not a thing. That's not a thing that happens. You can't just declare them guilty without presenting any evidence for it. So it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. They're so secretive about it too. They're so secretive. They have their classified hearings. They do all these things behind closed doors. They want to talk about transparency. Democrats, they talk about transparency. They say, oh, the Trump administration, there's no transparency. There's no transparency in your whole Russia sham. Your whole sham of investigation. There's no transparency at all. You guys always say, oh, we have evidence, but we just can't show it. And then you have your secret hearings and your secret meetings and you do all your things in secret. You can't tell us what you're doing. What are you guys doing? How do you get your evidence? What is your evidence? What are you guys doing? It doesn't make any sense. They say, oh, we can't tell you. Well, if you can't tell us, then we're not going to believe you. It's innocent until proven guilty. And there's been no proof of any guilt. So, as in our eyes, Vladimir Putin and Russia, they're innocent because you haven't been able to prove guilt at all. You just came out and said, "Oh yeah, Russia hacked the election. We have proof, but we just can't show you." All right, let's move on. Let's move on to collusion now. Let's move on to collusion. They have moved on. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't have a murder case where you show no evidence that a certain person did it, and then just start charging their friend because you think that they took part in it. You can't do that because you couldn't prove the murder in the first place. If there was no murder at all, you couldn't even prove the murder. So how are you going to prove the conspiracy? It's the same logic. How are you going to prove Trump-Russia collusion if you can't even prove that there was any election hacking to begin with? You can't just jump steps. You can't just do that. So this whole thing is just a sham, and it's just a travesty. I mean, it's just an embarrassment to the country that this whole thing has been going on for so long, and it just doesn't end, and it's like tearing us apart. It's tearing the whole country apart. Everyone's saying, "Oh, Russian agent, Russian agent, Russian agent," and it's ridiculous. How is this still news? How is this even still a thing? It's been going on for so long, and it's an embarrassment to the country that this is still going on. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we have more from the article. So Newt Gingrich has called for Mueller's probe to be shut down, claiming that it's not truly independent. Gingrich, why can't we have more people like you? Why can't we have more people out there like Newt Gingrich? I mean, Newt Gingrich, he's coming out there, and he's just telling the truth at this point. I mean, he's telling the truth. This isn't independent. This is a politically motivated investigation. It has no backing, no evidence. It's all just to try and take down Trump and try and say, "Oh, Trump is a Russian agent." And it's all they're doing. If they want us to believe that this is a nonpartisan, independent thing, they need to come out and say, they need to come out and they need to reaffirm, they need to assure us that that the election wasn't stolen, and they need to shame Democrats for making it into that thing. Because they have all the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, all the top Democrats, even the Democratic base, the 50%, they're all saying, "Oh, the election was stolen from us. Oh, Trump, not my president. He's a Russian agent, Russian puppet." If you want to prove that this isn't political, then go out and denounce them. Denounce them for making all these claims about, "Oh, rigged election, stolen election." But they don't do that. You know why they don't do that? Because it is politically motivated and it is partisan. This isn't an independent, non-partisan investigation. It's completely partisan, it's completely political, and it's a travesty, and it's a disaster, and it's a real shame and a real mess. And it needs to end. It needs to end fast. So we're going to move on now. We're going to move on to the travel ban, and the New York Times. New York Times is reporting that the Trump has lost travel ban ruling in appeals court. A second federal appeals court on Monday ruled against President Trump's revised travel ban. The decision from the U.S. Court of Appeals from the Ninth Circuit, big surprise there, was the latest in a string of court rulings rejecting the administration's effort to limit travel from several predominantly Muslim countries. So there's no surprise here. It's Ninth Circuit. I mean, come on. It's Ninth Circuit, for God's sake. I mean, what did you expect, you know? It's Ninth Circuit. It's uber liberal. And by the way, the judge, Judge Watson, was appointed by Barack Obama. What a shock. What a shocker. All of these Obama judges are all ruling against Donald Trump. What a shocker. What a big surprise. You have all these Obama appointees, they're all ruling against the president at every turn. I mean, we have a rogue judiciary out there. We really do. I mean, it's a disaster. We need to control them in some way. I mean, we really need to do something because it's just out of control. How are we going to ever win anything when we have all these Democrat liberal judges in these courts that are always going to rule against us, no matter what it is? No matter what it is, they will always rule against us. It doesn't even matter what it is. They don't care. They don't care about any of that. They're going to rule against us no matter what. And it's a shame, and it's a travesty, and it's a mess. So, the article goes on. The new ruling affirmed a March decision from Judge Derek K. Watson of the Federal District Court in Hawaii. Judge Watson blocked major parts of the revised order, saying they violated the Constitution's ban on a government establishment of religion. Government establishment of religion. So this is what the ban is now? So it's a travel ban that is actually, cryptically, Trump saying America is now officially a Christian nation. That's what the goal is, right? That's what he's done. He's used an immigration order to sort of twist and cryptically manipulate America into becoming a Christian nation. Right? That's his thing. That's what he's doing, right? According to Judge Watson and the Ninth Circuit, yeah, that's what he's doing. According to these people, these liberal judges, yeah, that's what he's doing. He's enacting a federal religion based on a travel ban, an executive, an immigration order. This is their logic now. They're saying, oh yeah, it goes against the ban on a national establishment, the establishment of a national religion. National religion? This is a national religion now. That he's saying, hey, let's block immigration for 90 days. It's not even a permanent ban. It's not even an indefinite ban. It's 90 days. If it would have been kept in place, it would have been over already. So this whole it's a ban. It's a lifetime. It's a travel ban. It's 90 days. That's nothing. 90 days? What is that? That's nothing. And yet they won't even be satisfied with that. They won't even be satisfied with a 90-day ban. Don't even get started with an indefinite ban. What we actually need, we need an indefinite ban. But they won't even let us have a 90-day ban. This is where we're at. This is where we're at now with these rogue courts and these rogue judges and these Democrats that appoint all these judges to the courts to try and screw us over at every turn. This is where we're at now. And it's absolutely just ridiculous. I mean, I don't even get it. Judge Watson also wrote that the statements of Mr. Trump and his advisors made clear that his executive order amounted to an attempt to disfavor Muslims. So that's what we're doing now. We're using statements and words. When has this ever been a thing? This has never been a thing. Ever. Ever. In any court. It's never ever been a thing in the history of the country that, it's technically legal, but you said in the past this, and this, so it's not. So basically what they're saying is, if it was anyone else, if it was any other person that made this ban, it would have been legal. But because it was Donald Trump, it's not. That's what they're saying right now. That's pretty much what they're saying with their little explanations. They say, oh yeah, it's legally, the ban itself, all the words, it's all fine, it's all legal, but the guy who did it, the guy who made it, he said this, and this, so it's illegal. That's never, ever been a thing. That's never been a thing. Is that a new thing now? Is that a new thing now that we have? We're gonna use these words to sort of go against, legal orders. These legal, perfectly constitutional, the president has the power to make these orders, but because it's a certain president and he said certain words in the past, then that it's not legal. Not even in the past. It shouldn't even be if he said the words in the present, because you shouldn't be ruling based on words. That's ridiculous. Who came up with that? Whose idea was it to say, oh yeah, we're gonna use words? We're not gonna judge this based on the thing itself, based on the actual order. We're gonna judge it based on the words of the guy who wrote the order. That's nonsense. What is that? Who does that? I mean, the order itself, it's never ever been about the content of the order. Never been about the content. It's always been about the words that he said, that the man said. That's not how it works. That's not how the law works. You can't just say that, oh yeah, you did a totally legal thing, but because in the past you said this, this, and this, therefore it is not legal. It's not. You can't. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. So these courts are absolutely out of control. They need to be stopped. They need to be kept under control in some way. I don't know how to do that, but I really do hope that Donald Trump gets on that, and he gets on these courts, and he controls these courts in a way, and just because they're out of control, and it's really insane at this point. So we need to get these courts under control, and under control very fast. Oh man, so I mean, yeah, I mean these courts, I don't even know what to say with these courts, man. I mean these courts, it's like all of these liberal institutions, I mean just like, we need to take them all back. We need to take them all back. I mean the only reason they had all these things is because back in the 60s, they turned the 60s radicals into teachers and politicians and artists. That's why they have what they have now. We need to take it all back. We need to take it all back. All of these influencers. We need to take all of them back. All of these big influencing jobs, and take them all back. We need them back. Because if we don't take them back, it's going to be a disaster. Speaking of disasters, let's move on to another article from the New York Times. It's about internet censorship and Theresa May and the EU, and it's very interesting. So let's go ahead. So New York Times is reporting, this is an op-ed from the New York Times saying, making Google the censor. So it goes on to say, Prime Minister Theresa May's political fortunes may be waning in Britain, but her push to make internet companies police their users' speech is alive and well. Of course, this is talking about how Theresa May, after the attack about a week ago at this point, in London, her response was to come out and say, "Oh, we need to crack down on the internet." That was her response to the attack. I mean, that's just what is that? What is that? We need to crack down on the internet. And then she said in a speech, this is the reason she lost, by the way. She said in a speech, "Oh yeah, we don't have time for human rights. We don't have time. We can't be. We need to forget about them. We don't have time for human rights." And everyone thought, "Oh yeah, it's a big gaffe. I mean, she's gonna come out and apologize for that, right?" No, you know what she did? She came out and she tweeted it, like she was proud of it. She tweeted it. She quoted herself, like it was an inspirational quote. It was like, "Oh yeah, we don't have time for human rights." Quote Theresa May. And then there was a video of her saying it. And I saw that and I was like, is this a parody account? I mean, is this an attack ad? I mean, what is this? She's tweeting that out like she's proud of it. Who does that? Who does that? So that's why she lost, by the way. I mean, there's no other reason. She had everything going for her, all the polls. Then she said that, and she had a dumb response to the terror attacks, just in general, just so dumb. So everyone said no. All the people who were thinking about it, they were like, no. Yeah, I mean, what are you doing? You're saying we need to crack down on the internet to fight terrorism? You're gonna say that, even though you could be saying we need to crack down on Islamic immigration to this country and this mass immigration campaign that the EU is pushing. Point to the EU and say, yeah, look, the reason this is happening is because the EU won't let us control our borders. So we need to do Brexit, and we need to do it fast so we can get control over our borders again. What did she do instead? She said, oh yeah, human rights, waste of time, come on, human rights, come on. Internet freedom, what is that? Internet freedom? We need to crack down on the internet to tackle Islamic extremism. Which, by the way, she says that, she really means crack down on all offensive content, hate speech and all that. So, it was just a terrible response, and she didn't even acknowledge it as a reason she lost. She didn't even acknowledge anything. How ridiculous is that? Like, this is a pattern. Like, you have Hillary Clinton, who refuses to say why she lost. She refuses to give any reason other than Russia, Comey, sexism. She has no real reasons. Theresa May comes out, she has no reasons either, and it's ridiculous. But her whole call to to police the internet is definitely still alive and well, I mean, according to the article, and it is because, I mean, already in the rest of Europe, and even in Britain, I mean, internet freedom is not a thing. It does not exist anymore. On Twitter, you can see people who live in Britain who tweet out and they say, hey, look, maybe we need to look at, like, Islamic immigration and maybe crack down on that in order to stop these terror attacks. And then you have liberals tweeting back at them. They're tagging the London police, the Metro police. They're saying, hey, look, hate speech, take this guy down. The police. What? What? What is that? You're gonna tell the police that someone said on Twitter, oh, maybe we need to think about immigration and maybe we shouldn't have unfiltered Islamic immigration. They're gonna say that, and then you're gonna go, oh, police, this guy's being a bigot, arrest him. What? What are you doing? What are you doing? What? That's being a liberal these days? That's what liberal means now? Liberal means, oh yeah, hate speech. Police, this guy, hate speech, take him down. That's being a liberal these days? I mean, that's in Britain. I mean, we're not too far off. I mean, at this point, we're not very far off. We need to remember that. Like, we laughed at Europe and Britain and all that, but like, it could happen here. It's very close to happening here. And it could happen if we let them have the power that they want. Because if they have the power that they want, then they're going to crack down on everything. They're going to crack down on free speech. They're going to crack down on everything that we love. They're going to crack down on absolutely everything. Because they're just animals, man. They're just animals. They just have hatred in their hearts. You know what I mean? They just have so much hatred. They hate us. They really hate us. I mean, they really do. They really, really do. And they're going to go in Britain and tell the police that someone said something edgy on Twitter. What is that? And of course that happens. The media. You think the media would say, oh my god, look at Britain, there's like no free speech. You can't even say anything on Twitter without someone getting you arrested. No, the media, you know what the media says about that? The media says nothing. The media says absolutely nothing. The media is silent. Media is dead silent. So it's just crazy. I mean, and this is happening all over Europe. In Europe, there's just no internet freedom at all. I mean, it's just not even a thing. In Germany, in the article here, it says, Germany wants to fine platforms up to 50 million euros if they don't quickly take down illegal content. And a European Union draft law would make sure YouTube and other video hosts responsible for ensuring that users never share violent speech. Violent speech. What is that? Violent speech. Violent speech. What is violent speech? What is violent speech? What is that? What is violent speech? Because here's the thing. Like, we live in different worlds, right? Us and the liberals, we live in totally different worlds. In their world, words are like fists, and you can physically attack someone with words. In their world, that's what it is. They believe that, oh yeah, words are violent, and words hurt. Not emotionally, words hurt physically. Words are violence. So that's their logic now. That's the logic that they're using in Germany and in Europe. They're saying, yeah, this speech right here is violent. It physically attacked me. Take it down. That's what they're saying. Violent speech. And they define violent speech. In the article, it doesn't say what they define as violent speech, but I can guarantee you that violent speech to the liberals that are making these laws, violent speech just means anything that we don't like, that we don't agree with. Anything that's somewhat edgy or somewhat controversial, that's violent speech. Take it down, fine the guy that made the post or something like that, anything like that. Find the guy who made the post, and then maybe even arrest him. There are arrests in Europe over speech online. Arrests. Fines and arrests. I mean, this is like... And they always say, oh, Russia's gonna threaten our freedom and democracy. Europe doesn't even have freedom and democracy. They have this. This is what they have in Europe. And if we let the liberals have power here, that's what we're going to have in here too. We're going to have just censorship and fines and jail time for edgy memes online. That's what they have in Europe. And if we let the liberals have their way here, it's going to happen here too. So we need to be vigilant. We need to be we need to be strong. We need to not let them have the power they want. Because if we let them have it, that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. It's going to happen here. Anyway, moving on, right? Sometimes platforms remove too little. More often, the research suggests, they remove too much, silencing contested speech rather than risking liability. So what it's saying is that what they're doing is they're pressuring these internet social media companies. They're pressuring the companies into taking down these things. And the thing is, right, you're a company, you can't monitor everything that gets posted on your site. It's just not possible. There's so many hours of material posted on YouTube every day. So many hours that it would be impossible to watch all of it. So they have to pretty much play the guessing game. And then what happens is that when they have the Europe threatening to fine them if they don't take down content that they find violent and offensive, then they sort of side with the safety more than maybe we let it go. Instead of saying, oh, it's probably nothing, let's just let it go, they say, oh, well, it's probably nothing, but if it is something, we get fined, so let's just take it down anyway. So they're going to take down too much. I mean, first of all, they're saying that this is going to be an accident. I doubt it. I think they're gonna try and take down all of the dissident voices, and then they're gonna take down even more along with it, because you can't watch everything. So it's a mess in Europe right now. It's such a mess. And then it says, this is something that's hilarious, by the way. European politicians tout the proposed laws as curbs on the power of big American internet companies. I mean, what is that? What is that? Curbs on the power of big American internet companies. Now look, I'm an American. I despise big internet companies. I despise them. I think they're awful. But in Europe, you're gonna say that cracking down on free speech in your country is going to limit the power of these companies? You're giving them more power. You're giving them the power to censor even more than they actually do. And like, this is disgusting, by the way, because they're trying to add a populist sort of spin to it. They're trying to say, oh no, this isn't censorship. It's just us standing up to American big companies and looking out for our people instead of American companies. Which is ridiculous, because they're saying, oh, we're limiting the power of these big American companies for our people's benefit. In reality, they're using the power of the companies to harm their own people. So it's completely backwards. It's completely backwards, their whole logic here of, oh yeah, this is actually a populist kind of thing. What are you talking about? This is limiting their power. You're giving them more power. You're giving them the power to take down whatever they want. Because you're saying, oh yeah, because, hate speech, just take it all down, That's apparently giving them less power. It's giving them more power. And the scarier part, in the article it says, studies suggest that ordinary internet users self-censor when they think they're being surveilled. I mean, how horrible is that? People will self-censor when they think they're being surveilled. Is there a single person in the entire country, I'm talking about America, even in Europe, is there a single person who doesn't think they're being watched by some spy agency in their government or another government? Or you have the NSA and the CIA all over the place on the internet. Everyone thinks... No. They know. Everyone knows they're being spied on. They're being surveilled on the internet. So that means that almost everyone is self-censoring to some extent. That's horrible. That's disgusting. That's just ridiculous that we're having this going on. And of course the media says, oh yeah, the press is a champion of the First Amendment. They say nothing. They say nothing about this because here's the thing. They don't care at all about our rights. They care about their own rights and their own profits, more importantly for them. Their own profits. They don't care about us. It's never been about us. It's been about them. It's been about their pockets, their money. It's been about their profits. It's been about all that. So they don't care about us. In fact, I'd even say they hate us. They despise us. They despise us completely. They have complete contempt for us. They just despise us in just a disgusting way. It's so sick. The press, so sick. The press is so disgusting. They don't even report on this. Now, of course, this is an op-ed on the New York Times, so I give them credit for having this up. I give them credit. New York Times, good job. I like that you have this on your website. But it's not a big issue for them. It's just like one op-ed. It's not like a whole, this should be the news. I go online. I go on these news sites and on cable news. Why can't, when we go on these things, why can't we be seeing, oh my god, there's no free speech in Europe. Oh my god, Europe is trying to censor and trying to fine companies for not deleting their hate speech. Oh, this is ridiculous. Why can't they report on that? Instead you go on and what are they reporting? They're reporting Russia, Watergate 2.0, Russia, over and over and over and over and over again. And they're not talking about this. This is a real issue. Because not only is it happening in Europe, it could happen here. Because we already have the rhetoric. We already have the rhetoric of, oh, hate speech isn't free speech. Hate speech is violence. Hate speech should be deleted off the internet. We have that rhetoric here already. So if we let them win and take power, they'll do the exact same thing here. But the media, because they don't care about us, and in fact the media is probably for that, it's secretly for censorship. They don't really care about us. They don't report that. They don't report anything like that. And instead they report Russia all day long, and nothing else but Russia. Russia, all day long, never ever ends, just Russia, 24/7. Even though this is a real issue, and it's just so ridiculous. The article continues to go on and says, this is a little paragraph here. If politicians think that eroding online expression rights will make us safer, they should explain how. Yes, they should. For all the rhetoric, we know very little about whether curbing online speech prevents real-world violence. What little research we have suggests that driving violent or hateful material into dark corners of the web may make matters worse. So what they're saying here is they're saying, look, they keep on saying, oh, if we crack down on hate and extremism online, then it'll prevent real-world attacks. That's their logic. That's their excuse. But there's no evidence for that at all. And there hasn't been very much research on this. But the research that we have says that if you try and push this violent rhetoric to like deep dark corners of the web, it actually makes the problem worse. And they're right about that. They're so right about that. Because here's the thing. What happens when you have a group of people and they get shunned from society? They get agitated, and they get angry, and they get rebellious, and they get even more fired up and ready to attack and ready to fight for what they see as their rights. That's what's going on with terrorism and with just plain old hate speech and right-wing hate speech online. You push them into a corner, you push them away, you shun them from society, and they go into these obscure little corners where they're just to themselves, and they just build up resentment and even more anger and hate that pushes them even further to the extremes. So the idea that, oh yeah, if we center them, then the problem will go away, it makes the problem worse. So when it comes to both terrorism and just plain old hate speech, just leave it up. And I know it's controversial to say, just leave up terrorism, right? Leave up terrorist propaganda. Leave it up. Leave it up there, so everyone can laugh at it, and everyone can say why it's ridiculous. Because here's the thing. Here's logic that people use. They say, hey, if this is so crazy, then why are people so afraid of having other people see it? If this is apparently so ridiculous and so insane, then why are they so afraid of having it online for people to see? And it makes sense. I mean, obviously, terrorist propaganda is crazy. So why are we so afraid of people seeing it? Yeah, some people may be influenced, and they might be radicalized by it, and they might be inspired by it. But at the same time, you'll have so many other people who will see that and say, oh my god, these people are out of their minds. These people are crazy. What are these people talking about? These people are just completely, they've lost it. So, this whole internet censorship thing, there's no proof that doing it stops any kind of violence, and there's proof, a little bit of proof, that it just makes it worse. Censoring makes it worse. So in Europe, the whole situation with internet freedom is just really scary and sad, and like I said before, if we don't keep the left in this country from getting more power, then it could happen here. And that is a scary thought. Alright, let me take a quick drink real quick, if you don't mind. I mean, even if you did mind, you couldn't really say anything. I mean, I already took a drink, but it's not like this is live. Oh my god. Oh, that was so good. Oh, thank God for water. I mean, honestly, without water, how would we even live? Without water, I mean, we would all die. Because it would just be so goddamn hot all the time. I mean, oh my god. It's so hot right now. And that water just gave me life. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to Jeff Sessions and how he's actually stopped the slush fund to activist groups, left-wing activist groups. So, Breitbart is reporting that Jeff Sessions ending Department of Justice handouts to activist groups is a tremendous victory. So the president of Government Accountability Institute, Peter Schweizer, spoke with Breitbart News Daily Sirius XM host Raheem Kassam on Monday regarding Attorney General Jeff Sessions' decision to end DOJ handouts for leftist groups, which has come to be known as something of a slush fund. So for those who don't know, it's sort of been proven at this point that the federal government directly funds leftist groups. It's been pretty much completely proven that we have funds from the government going towards left-wing activist groups. So that's a travesty. I mean, I would sit here and argue why that's a bad thing, Of course it's a bad thing. I mean, does anyone support that? Is anyone for that? Even if you're on the left, can you say, oh yeah, that's a great thing, I love it. Federal funds for our leftist activist groups, oh, fantastic. Even people on the left probably can't defend that. They can't say, oh yeah, that's a great thing. I think everyone thinks it's a bad thing. So I'm not going to argue why this is a bad thing or why it's a good thing, because it's obviously a good thing, right? Like, less money to activist groups. Duh. I mean, there's no arguing to be done there. It's the argument, there's no argument. It's just, yeah, it's a good thing. So anyway, let's move on. For decades, through a variety of initiatives, the Department of Justice has insisted on donations to third parties as part of the settlements it reaches with defendants, especially corporations. In the Obama administration, this practice took on the character of a slush fund which funneled hundreds of millions of dollars from these corporate defendants and put it into the hands of non-government organizations. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Want to know why we had such a big surge in left-wing activism in the past few years? Probably because of this. This is probably the reason why. Because you want to know why they have so much money, and why it seems like they have an infinite supply of money, and they have the money and the resources to just prop up any protest anywhere at any point for any reason? It's probably because of this. They have so much money, it's crazy. Hundreds of millions they have this money. Hundreds of millions of dollars from the government. So you want to know why they have so much activism now, and why they're so active, and why they're so well funded? It's probably because of this. So the article goes on. The recipients have included left-wing community organizer groups, such as the National Council of La Raza, or The Race, a Latino racial advocacy group that supports mass illegal immigration. By the way, I find it absolutely hilarious how La Raza, The Race, this is considered a totally normal thing, totally normal by liberals and everything, totally fine. La Raza, The Race, totally fine, you know, totally just, fine, absolutely okay. They never say anything about it. Can you imagine if there was a white group called The Race that was a white advocacy group? Could you imagine? Could you imagine racist? It would never end. We would never ever hear the end of it. The Race, racist. It would never ever end. So this whole idea of La Raza, The Race, I mean, I'm not against it, but if you're gonna have that, why can't white people have it? Why can't we have a white The Race to advocate for us? Because we have a lot of problems, and we have a lot of people in government and in general the establishment that just hate us. I mean, specifically liberals. I mean, liberals, they hate us so much. So why can't we have our own group to defend ourselves? Of course, we can't though, because, you know, racist, and it would just never ever end. Racist, over and over again to the end of time. Because, you know, secretly, liberals, they hate white people, specifically white males. They hate us. They despise us. So they will never, ever, ever let us have one of those. Forget about it. They'll never let us have one of those. So anyway, moving on. Other recipients include the National Urban League, the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, and NeighborWorks America, which is congressionally chartered mortgage aid group that itself has come under widespread criticism. So, this is a great sign for a lot of things. I mean, for the Trump administration in general, this is a great sign, because this is showing that Trump and his staff they're serious about this whole cleaning up the whole Washington thing, cleaning up the whole swamp and everything. Because, I mean, they're doing this. I mean, people may have doubted, like, oh, they're not serious about it. I mean, they're gonna get in there, they're gonna campaign like populists, but they're gonna get in there and be like any other politician. This proves that they're not. This proves that they're actually doing something a little bit different and a little bit like more I don't know, how do you say it? A little bit more positive. More positive. Because, this is change that we need. This is what we need in this country. We need change like this. This is what is keeping us going. Is this kind of change that we have from, Donald Trump and his administration. I mean, it just makes me so happy to see. It makes me so happy to see because it's just necessary. We need to get rid of this corruption, get rid of all of the, the whole swamp in government. It's got to end, and it's got to end fast. So anyway, speaking of the whole swamp and the big left wing, the whole like liberal sort of thing, I have another article from Breitbart, and it says here from Breitbart, large anti-Sharia rallies at San Bernardino terror site and LAX. So on Saturday, hundreds gathered to protest against Islam's Sharia law at the site of the December 2015 terror attack in San Bernardino, California, and elsewhere throughout the state. They were met by smaller groups of counter-demonstrators, many from so-called anti-fascist groups. San Bernardino police officers handled security without any major incidents except for a few scuffles on the anti-fascist side. So, this is... I read this, and I saw videos as well, and it's like, liberals, what are you doing? You're protesting against protests against Sharia law. Liberals, what are you doing? What are you guys doing? What is this? What are you guys doing? You're protesting against protests against Sharia law. So you're for Sharia law? What are you guys... What? What is this? You guys are liberals. And you're out there saying, "Oh, protesting against Sharia law is fascism." These are anti-fascist groups. So is this the new fascism? Is saying, "Oh yeah, Sharia law is bad." That's fascism now. Isn't Sharia law itself fascism in a way? I mean, it's theocracy, but it's also very authoritarian. It's you would probably consider it to be a fascist kind of thing if you took away Islam and said Christianity. They would all say, "Oh yeah, fascism, definitely." But no, because it's Islam and not Christianity, they're saying, "Oh, it's religion of peace, religion of peace, religion of peace, religion of peace." And then they go out and they protests against Sharia law. I mean, what are you people doing? I mean, honestly, like, I'm not the kind of guy to just assume that because you disagree with me that you're a bad person. But I mean, liberals are just not making that easy for me lately. They're not making it easy for me at all. I mean, how are you going to do that? How are you going to go out and protest for Sharia law? That's what they're doing. They're protesting for Sharia law. Liberals. Liberals. I mean, what is this? I mean, where are we? I mean, this whole country, I mean, where are we at in terms of the politics where we have people going out in support of Sharia law? I mean, you even had San Bernardino survivors and family members of survivors, and you're protesting against them. Liberals, what are you doing? What are you people doing? What are you guys doing? You're protesting against survivors, families of the survivors of San Bernardino victims? What are you people doing? What are you doing? And I saw the videos. I mean, they were getting violent. They were getting very, very aggressive. They were trying to drown out the speeches of the anti-Sharia protesters. They were trying to drown out their speech because they don't want them to be heard. Because that's what they're for. They're for censorship, and they're for shutting us down, because deep down inside, liberals, not just these radical anti-fascist liberals, but all liberals, they hate us. They despise us, and they will shut us down any way they possibly can, and they will not care at all. So anyway, we're about 59:40. Great time right now. We're almost at an hour. It's been a great show today. It's been a fantastic day. It's been a fantastic day in terms of news and in terms of the show, not in terms of the weather. In terms of the weather, this has been a horrible day. It's been miserable, and I'm sitting here dying in this heat. And I'm sure anyone else who lives in the country right now who doesn't live in, like, Canada or North Dakota, they feel the heat right now, and it is just such a mess. I feel so bad for those who live in, like, Florida. I feel so bad for you guys. Because this heat is out of control. You know what? I'm getting on board with the whole climate change thing. We gotta stop it now, because we need to cool down this earth. Because it is way too hot right now. It is way too hot for me to handle. Way too hot for this whole country to handle. But anyway, I've been Richard O'Reilly. This has been the Richard O'Reilly Show, and I will see you guys tomorrow.